Should be touchscreen too.
Well, I think the USB is a touch. I took that away. I have a mouse though.
I told you everything worked. Right, plugged in.
It's just that I can't see.
Okay, so we recording now?
We are recording.
Wonderful. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Sarah Smith's Go Team meeting, where we will follow the agenda as it has been emailed to you and publicly noticed. I would like to remind everyone that this is a meeting of the Go Team. Only members of the team may participate in the discussion. Any members of the public present are here to quietly observe. For members of the Go Team, please identify yourself when you speak. My name is Ben Miller. I'm pleased to call this meeting of the Sarah Smith Go Team to order at 3:19 p.m. Our first order of business is to call roll. The secretary will call roll.
Please respond present when your name is called. Mr. Hudson,
Present.
Mary Posada. Mona Dickerson,
Present.
Ben Miller,
Present.
Jennifer Berry. Present. BJ Osby,
Present.
Carla Lamar. Nagali De La Torre. Present. Nina Reed,
Present.
Allison Stokes, present.
This team will only be able to make or take official action if a quorum is present. Allison, is there a quorum present?
Yes, there's the fourth present.
Our first order of business is to approve our agenda. This was provided to you and copies are here. Are there any changes to the agenda? I do want to mention briefly that there is a change. I made a typo in the agenda that was posted and I wrote school instructional program because I misunderstood SIP, the acronym, and I made a mistake and I should have asked, and it's the continuous improvement program, which is what we'll talk about. May I have a motion to approve the agenda? Thank you, Jennifer. A second? I'll second.
Second. Nina Reed.
Thank you, Nina. All in favor, please say aye, so the secretary can record your vote. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, please say nay. Any abstentions, please say abstain. Okay. We'll now review and approve the meeting minutes from our last meeting. The minutes have been provided to you. Are there any corrections? Hearing nothing, if there are no corrections, may I have a motion to approve the previous meeting's minutes?
Move to approve the previous meeting minutes, BJ's.
Thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. Any abstentions, please say abstain. In addition, at this meeting, we'll be seeking approval of minutes from our meeting that was held on May 18, 2022, because we were not able to do so at the meeting that was held on September the 1st, as reflected in the minutes. May I have a motion, or are there any corrections regarding the May minutes? If there are no corrections, may I have a motion to approve the May meeting minutes?
I make
Thank you, Allison. Is there a second?
Second, BJ.
Thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say nay. Any abstentions, please say abstain. Okay, both motions have passed unanimously. Thank you all. Our first action item today, our next section of the agenda are the discussion items. We'll move there now. The first discussion item on our agenda was the status of third grade. We had that, discussed that last time. I don't know if there's anything you wanted to mention there or about the IC crossing guard. Mr. Hudson?
No updates on the crossing guard because we did talk about with the steering committee possibly parents doing that,
Okay,
but there wasn't one coming from the district.
okay,
As far as third grade, we did interview and recommend someone. However, we had a verbal, the person verbally accepted, but not certain that they've done what they need to do through HR. So we'll wait and see on that. In addition to that, we did speak with, I spoke today with Matt Rogers, who's over at HR.
Mhm.
He's working with the team to recruit some people to the school as well. So we're exhausted all means that we have to get someone,
that's great.
and possibly two.
Okay. Wonderful. Thank you for that update. We'll now move on to informational items. First thing on the informational items is our principal's report. So right back to you.
Right back to me 1 second. And you guys have to excuse me. I have been running around today.
We think that's probably a good thing here on the 15th. So
You said no, what was a good thing?
That you're running around.
Yeah.
If you're like, oh, I'm rested, I've just been hanging out today.
I get it. I
Might
get
be
it.
concerning.
So most recently, we've, well, first we had our Hispanic Heritage Month program, which was excellent at both campuses. The children were very excited. DLI teachers marched in, they all appreciated it.
Can you in the waiting room, or did you let Mary in? She said, she just texted me and said that she was in the waiting room. It looks like they're, thank you.
Guess that's 2 points for the mouse versus the each score.
Right. We had Hispanic Heritage Month. We also had our first Constellations Assembly or Star Assembly. And as you all may have heard from your children, the school is divided up into 4 constellations, with the 5th one being pre-K, where it's the house system from like Harry Potter, behavior, rewarding positive behavior, recognizing positive behavior, and Pegasus, Team Pegasus won for the first time. It was a huge success. The kids were excited, especially over at the PC. They really just got into the competition part of it. Not so much here. They were excited here. They had fun, but they really got into it. So that seems to be working well. And now the children are excited. So we want to keep that momentum to recognize and reward positive behavior and just keep kids excited about school. You know, we had music, we had the teachers, you know, thanks to the teachers that volunteered for, what's it called again?
Musical chairs.
Musical chairs, thank you. They competed, the kids went crazy, and it was just a good time. Some of the things on the near horizon, I don't know if you all have seen Hazel Health is coming soon. And Hazel Health is going to be an opportunity for the students to get mental health services at school as well as telemedicine. So if a child has an issue with health, they can go to the nurse, and if there's an issue beyond the nurse, they can pull out basically a doctor in the office. Parents have to get permission, sign up for it, but that will give them access to a doctor during the school day. The parents have the same access as time. So if they know it's something, for example, like pink eye, they see the doctor online, the doctor can see them online at home, correspond with the school nurse, put a prescription in, get that medicine, and it saves parents a trip to the doctor. So that's something that's on the near future coming up. I'm sure, what else do we have? We'll receive some visits from another school soon from DLI. From both DLI, they want to observe our DLI teachers, so they're coming out to see our teachers. And just collaborating and working with the peers, my peers and colleagues in this area in the North Cluster, and just continuing with learning more and doing more with the school system.
That's great. Thank you for that update. So the next item on informational item we have is the SIP and map data for items, but maybe just speaking first to the program.
So that's in the PowerPoint, that's what's all here. That's actually, I think that's going to be part of the discussion items as well.
Okay,
So we may change that to discussion because we want to talk about this a little bit.
okay.
But we'll go to the plan. A second. It's not about the mouse at this point, it's about my vision. Goodness sakes. Well, this is big enough for everyone to see. So our strategic plan, this was developed before I came. This was developed with the previous administration. It's the guide for the work we're doing in the school. By monitoring the plan and ranking priorities, we can all work towards the common goals using the priorities of the strategic plan. The school leadership team developed a continuous improvement plan. So we took some of the data from the strategic plan, but we also looked at the map data to develop our continuous improvement plan, and that was step 15, looking at the map data, looking at what the school needed. But we can also take input from the team, and that's why I said it's a discussion item, because if there are changes that need to be made, then we need to work on that together. And we'll talk about some things that I've noticed. So this was the timeline, and this is where we are now. Utilizing current data, the GO team will review and possibly update the school strategic priorities and plan. And then 5, before winter break, the GO team will take action both on the rank of the strategic plan priorities for 23-24 and preparation for budget discussions. So this is our current strategic plan that we'll look at in a second. We'll look at the continuous improvement plan, needs assessment, SMART goals, monitoring measures, and map data. And that will be all part of what we use to make our decisions. So this is the current plan that we have. And Ms. Gibson, are you online? I understand that they've changed over to a new format, so that may be something for us to do.
Yep, I'm here, Principal Hudson.
Hi, so there's a new format, correct?
Yes, there is.
Okay. So we'll talk about, I think we'll look at this one and then we'll look at converting this over to the new format and making some changes for the next time.
Yep.
Right. And so what I would suggest, because ultimately what you guys will have to do is you'll have to make sure that you have alignment between what's in your continuous improvement plan and your strategic plan. And then basically you can kind of, so that you don't automatically think you have to transfer all of this into your new strategic plan. Does that make sense?
I took a look at it and I saw that, but I wanted to make sure that we looked at what we had and not change anything yet.
Right.
To move over to the new one, because I noticed that the newer plan is more streamlined.
Correct, correct. So what I'll do, I'll set up some time with you to kind of walk you through it. And then, you know, because you guys will meet again after this. So you don't have to have it in the new format until like before you leave for the break.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So when we look at the current plan, and I am going to move closer just so I can read. Our school priorities embed a data-driven multi-tier system of support to improve all subgroup performance in math and ELA. This is under school priorities and academic program. Develop a literate community in which students read and write with clarity and fluency across the curriculum. Offer a rigorous curriculum with an enhanced focus on the integration and application of math, science, and technology. Create a well-rounded curriculum that develops the whole child while providing more exposure to and appreciation of the arts and social emotional learning. So when I look at this, we pretty much have kept the same priorities, even though some of them may not be written into the newer plan. These priorities are still here. So targeted professional learning and coaching to support program implementation and or address teacher efficacy. So that is, we want to keep note of this, Ms. Barry. This is our work that we do in PLCs because we really have been focusing on our professional learning communities and teachers working together, planning together, putting their plans on the same plan in order to move forward and sharing ideas and talents and so forth amongst each other. 1B is utilize common assessment, benchmarks, grade level assessments to foster a cycle of continuous improvement through use of data to guide differentiation of instruction, enrichment, remediation, and intervention. So we're still holding to that. So that's something else we want to note because we are doing some common assessments and moving towards, we did one with writing in particular where all the teachers had the same writing prompts, looked at it together to see what they needed to work on and help the students with. So continuing that work, we wanted to expand to reading, writing, and across the board. Utilize transdisciplinary teaching for integrated, rigorous, and relevant learning through IB planners and the SRS program of inquiry. We are continuing with that. That's the work that Carla's doing, starting looking at doing some of the units and having that start in January, working on those units and then going backwards and working on the ones from the beginning of this year. And this has to be done because we are moving into a self-study at the end of this year and looking at being reauthorized for IB starting next year. So all of this has to be done and work with fidelity. Increase opportunities for building background knowledge through in-house and out-of-house field trips and experiences. Still doing that. So this is one where we would need to update, utilize STAR and AR data to develop individual goal setting, monitor progress, and provide feedback to increase student lexile. So as you all know, we're no longer using STAR. We've moved over to MAP, so we would change this to MAP. And I don't know how much we're not doing AR as much this year. Yeah. So maybe even take that out because really the heavy hitter and what we're looking at is MAP. And you'll see why MAP gives us everything that we need as time moves on. Ben, you got a question? You look like there's a question.
I was curious if there's like a term that would make sense to you all for what you're doing. That would be like a standardized test. Like what I, in another year or so, if MAP isn't working out for some reason and it's going to shift, like I would trust your judgment to use the most appropriate.
Yeah, like an umbrella term that we can use instead of being so specific.
Universal screener.
Okay,
Yeah.
so versus so that we don't need to amend the strategic plan in order that you all feel comfortable making a change.
I get.
Unless we need to specifically.
Yeah.
So I think we can say MAP and then put in parentheses a universal screener because I think MAP is going to be here for a while.
Okay.
But we can use both to be clear because someone that's not familiar with MAP, I get it. Or a parent just looking at it as a lay person may not understand, well, what is that about? So I think that's an excellent suggestion. So moving on, intentional planning using tiered vocabulary and a variety of narrative and informational texts to address reading skills and content knowledge. This is an area of improvement for us. This is an area where we're depending on the ESOL teachers to start rolling out and speaking to the staff more about being intentional about vocabulary to help assist all students rise, but especially looking at our English learners first, and then helping everyone else to be intentional about vocabulary. And it will come out as well when we take a look at some of our data from that. Develop and implement consistent writing program to address identified areas for growth. We have that in place. Ms. Barry has graciously written lesson plans for K-5 and given them a resource. Utilize technology, resources, and partner organizations to enhance rigorous math and science curriculum. So we're using different district programs to do that. And so I like that this is generic, but we do have programs for students to use it. And implement consistent social emotional learning curriculum in all grades. Review current specials offerings to identify opportunities to expand programming through additional courses, as well as before and after school programming. So I don't know that we've touched that one at all this year, and that has not been a focus. That may be one that we want to consider taking out, but this is just being honest. I know that we haven't emphasized this when we look at our program for this year. So moving to our talent management, offer authentic and diverse professional learning experiences to increase teacher efficacy. So some of the goal, like when we look at the Go team, and then we look at foundation and us all working together, we were actually funded. We had guided reader training and math training at this last professional development. So guided reading and math workshop in particular, the district actually paid for that. But then as well as that, we also, the Go team, not Go team, sorry, Foundation is helping to send many of us to IB training and getting our new teachers trained in IB. So that's where, you know, we see that combination of the Go team, Foundation, PTO working together to get us what we need. So we are doing that. Develop a faculty staff base that serves the growing language needs of the school. That's something that we're continuing to develop, but you know that DLI is a part of that, but as well as our Spanish teachers, and that's one of my overall goals for the school. As we begin to phase French out, like really making us a Spanish speaking school and bilingual all over the school, Spanish and English, and emphasizing that throughout the school. So we'll do this through these strategies, and these are the ones that we'll look at for the next time. Provide targeted professional learning for all teachers to improve transdisciplinary learning. Teaching rather, consistent implementation of school-based programs, co-teaching implementation, and build teacher efficacy. So we will continue with that. Utilize professional learning communities to model or to review curriculum and data in order to enhance teaching and learning for all students. We will continue with that. Increase the number of teachers holding additional certifications gifted in ESOL in collaboration with partner organizations and intentional recruitment and retention to identify and develop bilateral educators. And kudos to Sid and Emily and the team before, because we do have bilingual teachers that are not DLI teachers, just in the regular classrooms that are teaching it. So they've done a good job at doing that. So that's going to help us move towards that goal of just having language be just throughout the school, just part of the day for everyone. Provide targeted professional learning to promote the guided principles for dual language immersion and other language programs. So that's being done as well. Systems and resources. Cultivate a global learning community that aligns with our school systems and resources with the IB curriculum. Optimize and acquire resources to support our students who are 21st century learners. And so we're looking at cultivating partnerships with IB, building community awareness and knowledge and support for IB PYP reauthorization. That's next year. So parents will begin to hear more and more. Cultivate partnerships, opportunities to support acquisition and training of 21st century tools in order to utilize in a developmentally responsive manner. So one of the things that we've been speaking about, we put it out in the newsletter and spoke briefly to the staff, is the SAMR model of technology integration, which is substitution, augmentation, modification, redefinition. So substitution is on the lower end, where we take an activity that was typically on paper and we move it to an electronic source without making any adaptations to it. But as we move down the scale, we want the students to start getting into the redefinition mode, or the teachers using that mode to actually redefine what they're doing. So instead of writing an article, they're publishing a news article online where other students respond to it and make comments. So moving to that level, but right now we're starting with substitution, which is the base level for this year, because there's so many changes. We don't want to overwhelm the teachers, but just knowing that that's part of what's going on. And implement research-based strategies to bridge the school to home connection for families, and we are looking to do more of that. Finally, culture, create a school-wide culture of high expectations, trust, and strong communication, and foster an active and engaged school community that encourages inclusion of all stakeholders. And the strategies are implement SEL, utilize the IB learner profiles to guide instructional rigor and communication both internally and externally. So part of that is when we talk about our STAR assemblies, the first one, we recognize our communicators and our reflective learners. So that's part of just building it school culture-wide. With our new teachers that just started that don't know as much about IB, we told them to start with just the IB learner profile. Start using that language in the class, start encouraging the students to use that. And so that's how we're starting to bring it in for everyone, but we're going to expand that because we're going to make sure we're doing everything we need to. And utilize the Family Engagement Committee to provide supplemental supports and transitions programming with particular focus on ESOL and special education. So we don't have a family education committee that has started this year. I will say that next Wednesday, we are hosting the cluster-wide meeting for special ed parents. So the entire cluster will be here. If you have a child with special needs within this entire cluster, next Wednesday is the meeting date here at Sarah Smith. So that's just looking at last year's strategic plan, which I think is very solid. I think we should take some things out and streamline it. But and it doesn't mean not do those things, but like focus on less things so we can do better. Any comments on that?
I had a question about with the culture. I saw this for somebody in the leadership meeting. It seems like there's some work being done there. They would identify a specific target or goal. That seems to me, I don't know if that was the one that
School-wide culture is, and so we did come together and meet with one of our departments downtown, and they looked at the culture survey that we took, which is really based on last year's data. And that is coming up now. So all the teachers are taking it now, no, it's not. They're taking it now. So this will be my baseline data for what's going on in the school now. And it will show me the areas where I can work and the team can work to improve the culture of the school as it is right now. So I'll be getting that data soon. Based on last year's data, they wanted to look at teachers doing quality work and everyone doing quality work in the roles that they're in. So we're going to look at that. But really, after we get this current data, we may decide to stay with that. But if it looks different, we may shift to something else. So thank you.
This key performance,
Oh, thank you.
like, is that something that we're gonna need to update? Have those ever been looked at? Like, have we ever looked at, did we increase a percent? Have we looked at that stuff?
So this 3%, I didn't look at that per se, but we have updated our new continuous improvement plan to 5%. And it's school-wide, so it's 5% in reading. We didn't look at decreasing, we just looked more at focus on growing the distinguished and proficient, as well in ELA and math. And we'll go to that. There's not a goal in there for suspension, but we can add that in. And we didn't have a goal like this one, 90% of students will leave second grade reading and above grade level, because we just looked at reading overall increasing by 5%.
was that something we probably need to streamline there?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we'll probably put, so that they, they're saying the same thing. We'll probably have to adjust our strategic plan when we change over to the new format. So what's gonna probably happen is I'll do that work before and bring it to the next meeting. And then when we get in the next meeting, we'll look at it together and just say, okay, let's look at changing this makes more sense here, and we'll develop that as a team and make the changes. So I'll come in with a draft to facilitate us getting through it more quickly. Thank you.
We need to have a meeting.
I probably will. I'll probably pull the staff and then maybe just do a quick want to send it out via email, do a quick look. All right. So the continuous improvement plan. So the first thing, and I won't bore you with all these, this really came from sitting with the team from last year, and it was trying to get to the root causes of what we were dealing with. And so we came to the root causes for literacy, numeracy, whole child support. We came up with, there were no PLC structures in place that would facilitate standards-based, consistent tier 1 instruction and best practices. That was the same for literacy and numeracy. And then the school counselor, 1 for 2 buildings, and SEL teacher were both teaching full-time, while the social worker position was never consistently filled. And what this is addressing is that our students lack sufficient social emotional support throughout the pandemic, and then coming back into the school year, regular school year, we really didn't have the supports in place that we needed. So some of the changes that you will see already is we have an SEL teacher, we have a counselor, and they don't have a full schedule. They teach 2 days a week. They teach 2 days a week. And so we release them for 3 days to be able to do groups, support children, to work with them when there's social emotional issues or a child is going through something. It's not just a discipline issue automatically. We bring them to them to kind of talk them through them and help them with their lessons. We let them work with them first and hopefully get through some of that. And then this is addressing how our maps and milestone performance have decreased, and our achievement gap has increased for Black, Hispanic, emerging bilinguals, and students with disabilities in numeracy and literacy. So that's why we're really focused on PLC standards and doing all of that to hopefully bring that back up so we have a consistent language and message throughout the school.
When you're saying drops, is it per year? You comparing this last year or something?
Mainly, well, throughout, but that all of that has impacted what's going on. So we're addressing that. That's why we have the extended hour. That's why we have intervention. All of that is working together to hopefully address all of those gaps and things that occurred during that time, and from before then, because there was a gap before. It just was, it grew due to the condition of the pandemic. So our SMART goals, this is when we talk about those goals, and then that last column. By the end of 2022, 2023, we will increase from 56 to 61% proficient or above on the Georgia milestones in literacy. So this is our literacy data. From 57 to 62% in mathematics, and 100% of our care team meetings will utilize the 7 core components in order to support our students that have social emotional challenges. Is everyone familiar with care team? So
I'm not, Mr. Hudson.
we have a team that meets weekly. It's headed up by Jessica Herron. I participate, some of the other administrators participate. If we have a child that is experiencing difficulties in school, whether it's social, emotional, behavior, academic, we meet and discuss what we can do to help that student. If we find a way to help that student within the care team, within a few weeks, we address the needs, they come off of the care team, they get support as normal. But if we find that, okay, what we're doing is not enough, they need to escalate this to another team, then we get that support from the other team and we start to look at other needs. But it's all about addressing that need. So hopefully they don't need additional things. It may be something that's temporary. It may be a parent lost a job and is having difficulty getting food. And so the student is struggling with eating and doesn't have attention. His attention for that isn't the same as school. We get the parent connected with the right resources, the food comes into the house, the child is eating, everything is fine, they come off the care team. Or it may be something, there's a behavior challenge. It could be the parents are going through divorce. We get them referred to counselors, the counselors work with them, the FCL teacher works with them, gives them ways of coping, family counseling for the family is addressed, that student is doing better. But if it's something like ADHD or something of that nature, or that effect, then we have to escalate it up to another team where they can actually get them the help. But that's what the care team is for. It's there to really help all students don't, we get them help.
That's fantastic. Thank you.
So this is what the care team does, and we meet weekly, and that's our focus, and that's part of that 100%. So currently, we use MAP, Common Assessment, G-Kids in kindergarten to monitor literacy, mathematics and numeracy, MAP, Common Assessments, and G-Kids. Monitor, and the whole child monitor the implementation and effectiveness of care team. And so, you know, I did take a look at that, and we've been looking at that as a team and noticed that we needed to make some tweaks and improvements. So we have done that, so hopefully we'll do a lot better with the care team. So our map data, I've shared this with you before, and I shared this at the parent coffee talk. These are quintiles, so when you look at these, and I left the key off, but this is high, average, average, high, this is very high, high, medium, low, average, and then very low. And so we're looking at keeping our students in the yellow, green, or blue, and even more so in the green or blue. And so as you look by grade levels, with our reading, this is where we are, this is from the first map test. So when we make our goals, and when you take a look at the goals that we have, this is what we do for the first one. Same thing in math. Who do you think needs the most help in math, just looking at first grade? So who needs the most help in reading? Third grade. And so when you consider that shift from second to third, where second is learning to read and third is reading to learn, that's why the district saw fit to also say, you know what, they need some more phonics instruction in third grade because they're not reading at the level that they need to. So I think it's an excellent move that they move foundation into third grade too, to really assist with improving that reading. But there's something else. We'll talk about this a little bit. So this is another slide and another view of map. And this allows us to see what the predictor is in the fall of where our students would fall on milestones. So this would be, you know, distinguished all the way down to need an improvement here. And so we look decent, but our goal is to grow the green and decrease the yellow and the red, especially when we look at second grade reading is at 26%. That's 1/4 of our students that are not proficient in reading, and that's not acceptable. But this is the work that we have to do now. So in fall, that number better be way lower than 26% with intervention, with guided reading. That's why we had guided reading training, because that's what really moves students. Whole novel reading aloud does not help the students move. So we talk to the teachers about using the FFP days and working with the students with guided reading. And then continuing with the phonics in K1, 2, and 3.
And tutoring is up too, right?
And tutoring as well.
Do you have a sense from, I don't know if they showed it in cluster level too. I can't help it, like in my head, a couple years back, so those second graders, kindergarten,
Virtual and
Only
first grade in a
virtual.
math. I never learned phonics.
and so I'm sort of curious, is this an experience that a lot of schools are having to try to address?
I think around across the board, that second grade is lower grade. And I mean, we can see why, but we can't make an excuse and say.
No, I just,
No,
it was more to just point out that, this isn't a Sarah Smith specific issue, but Sarah Smith does need to address it.
and that's why I said like no excuse, because we have the children now, so we have to work with them, and we can't just blame it on the pandemic. And so that's part of our work. And frankly, where we need to pour more resources. So if we see that second grade is really struggling like we do, what resources, when we start talking about funding and needs of the school and our strategic plan and continuous improvement plan, what can we really do to help those second graders? And that's part of our discussion as a team.
I was gonna say that even through, like, as we looked at our data through the pandemic, our Sarah Smith has tracked about the same with to our other schools. Second grade right now has not held their spot among the grade levels. Like, this group of students kind of stand out and drop below their were in relation to the cluster, if that makes sense. So we do need some extra attention here. So it is the pandemic, yes. It has been also, but it is this pocket of children.
Just to be understanding, because our first grade class was the first class that started school in person, because when they were in kindergarten, we were the current first grade class.
Yes.
So now that they've started their normal, are they tracking the way it was pandemic? Since they are normal and never got disrupted by the pandemic? Because when Daryl was well, he was in virtual, but they were like pre-K, if they were in school.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely still impacted them because of like pre-K and just like family situations. Like, something that I noticed last year in looking at our data is that our first grade students last year and our second grade students were lower in listening comprehension than ever before. And I think that being in school all day and listening to a teacher talk and read, and whether even if you're in PE and the teacher's giving instructions, just that constant interaction, they didn't have it. So I think even our first graders have missed out on some of that. And last year, although more normal, still was not normal. You know,
The math, and that's important,
like
you know, phonics pieces and foreign media lips and sounds, and, you know, a foreign language. Some of our teachers at school I was at last year used the clear math, but it was muffled, and I think the clear math was more difficult to read. And so they kind of that.
So really, this year's kindergarten is our most baseline. Okay. I mean, like, they're the first normal group.
Yeah.
Again. Yeah.
All right. This is my favorite Matthew. Because what it does, and we can break this down in so many different ways, but what I want you to really realize is this is math overall for Sarah Smith. But what it's showing you is geometry, measurement and data, numbers and operations and algebraic thinking. So when you look at that, clearly we see that where do we need to jump to in math and focus on overall as a school. And there are two of them that I could say were neck and neck. But when you look at these three for measurement and data, and then numbers and operation. For reading, it's a clear winner. Informational text. And so we know that in school we focus a lot, especially at the younger ages, on reading stories and things of that nature. But these children need to hear informational text, books about animals, giraffes, things of that nature. So that's part of what we're focusing in on right now. We're doing informational writing right now. So we're combining that and merging that with informational text to help the students as they read, to show them also how to write. So this is when we start to talk about where we should focus to get the most bang for our buck and move our students, informational text. And I think that this is important just for life period, because when it comes down to it in college, it's not about literature, it's about informational text, high school, college, and beyond. So we have to address that this year.
I will say, coming out of the classroom teaching math and science, pre-pandemic, that math data looked very similar to geometry. That was always our lowest, biggest struggle. It's the same with pre-pandemic. As far as math goes.
This is another map view. And what this is broken down, math and reading, and this is by race. This is the beginning of the year, so this is from this year. And what I want you to notice is, when you look at math overall, fall 22-23, we're doing okay in math. These black lines are where the district is performing, but we can be doing much better. But this is where we talk about the gaps and why we talk about, we have universal goals, move by 5%, but we can't talk about a universal goal of improving by 5% when we look at 2 or more races at 66, Hispanic Latino at 41, Black at 37. We have to move all groups so that we can reach that goal. That's math. When we look at reading, our Black and Hispanic students are outperforming the district, but all other groups are not. So white, 2 or more races, and Asians are not hitting the target. And so when we talk about changes, and this is like when I talk about Go Team supporting us, sometimes the teachers are like, oh, why do we have to do this? Why do we have to do that? Why are we doing intervention? We don't need intervention. We need intervention. And we not only need it for our students that are struggling, we also need it for our gifted students so that they're growing as well too, whatever racial group they fall in, so that they will continue to grow and outperform. A lot of times we find our gifted students follow like a stagnant line where they don't show as much growth as they can. So as we look at changes and what changes to make, what improvements we need to do, we're looking at our students that are struggling, we're looking at our gifted students, and we're looking at all, because as we elevate everyone, then that overall goal is met. And we can do this by boy, girl, we can break it down so many ways, special ed, ESOL, but this is just an example of what we have. And if we want to look at that in more detail during our next meeting.
So when we're saying we want to grow our students, are we growing them so that students are performing similarly, or every student increases by that?
So the goal is that every student increases, but the reality is there's going to be a gap. We put more resources into the students that are struggling to help them grow, but there's still going to be a gap, but we work to eliminate that gap. There's been, I mean, if you just to be frank, there's been a gap in APS since I've been here. And when one group grows and the other group grows, the gap continues to exist, but that's why we have to put more resources in to the groups that are not doing as well, so that all groups are growing as well.
Give me, because this is stratified by race, give me an example of resources that will significantly improve Black and Hispanic.
So let's talk about strategies. So a strategy is vocabulary acquisition, and actually going in and being very specific about teaching vocabulary, being targeted the vocabulary, helping that to be understood as you go into the lesson. That helps to improve not only reading, but math, because a lot of people think of math as numbers, and they say for the ESOL students, oh, math is a universal language. That is absolutely not true. Because you might have 3 just, middle computational problems on milestones. I don't even know if it's that many anymore. It's all about word problems, application. So if you don't understand less than, more than, and how to make those, what that vocabulary requires you to do, then you struggle throughout. So like putting some emphasis on vocabulary acquisition and targeting that is one strategy that will help some of the groups to grow.
Strategies like language learning, especially very much
Yep, but it also goes back to something else. Those are best practices. So when you use them with the ESOL students and Black students, it really helps everyone to grow. Their best practices in instruction, period, to teach vocabulary and language acquisition and make sure that they learn what they, they understand what they're going into before they go into. All right, and so I think we've reached the point now. We kind of did this along the way, but what did we notice? What are our wonderings, and do we have any additional questions? Kind of did that along the way. Do we have any additional noticings, wonderings, or questions?
I understand, I know, I'm stuck on that same chart, just because I deal with it at my job too. I totally understand it for non-native speakers, but for the Black students, what in y'all?
So there's still, it depends on a lot of things, but I'll say one thing. When you go back and look, like at this chart here, one of the factors is also poverty. Yeah. And I don't know that APS has ever just looked at our white children, Black children, and Latino children of poverty as a separate group to see how they performing to the rest. And there's studies out about children of poverty having 10,000 less words and vocabulary and things of that nature. But we haven't, I don't know that the district has ever really just extrapolated that data just to look at that group. Because a lot of even our Black children in this area, they're not in poverty as some of the other areas in Atlanta. And you see that our children are outperforming students in the rest of the district, even, like almost halfway sometimes.
And something about that always just stands out to me and like hurts my heart is that yes, we are outperforming the district, but the district, that means the district for reading, that Black students are performing like 22% of them are proficient above. Like, yes, we're outperforming that, thank goodness, but like for the children in this district, that's, hard. So I feel like I agree, it is the strategies, and I think that our intervention block targets all students who are not performing on grade level, but a lot of the Black and Hispanic students fall within that group that is targeted. So while we're not targeting them by race, they are the students who are in the groups that are receiving support.
And thank you for saying that. And it is bothersome. And that's our work to figure out, because when you start to think out of 10 students, only 4 are performing at the acceptable level of reading, so that's 6 that are not. What do we do for those 6? When you start to look at a classroom and you see 30 students and you think, okay, 18 of them may not be performing where they need to be, then that becomes an issue. Even with looking at overall, I think we're at 56 overall. 4 out of 10 is not acceptable for me. And so that's our job to figure it out. And that's part of those teams looking at what our strategy should be and how we can help that, and just see that our progress, but we have to be realistic and see that what we're doing is working and making an impact, just to make sure that all of our groups are okay. Quote, strategic planning will help you fully uncover your available options, set priorities for them, and define the methods to achieve them. So that kind of leads from what we were talking about. So at our next meeting, we'll discuss how our data is aligning to our strategic plan and determine if we need to make any adjustments. So I will do that in between this meeting and the next meeting. And then before the end of the fall semester, we'll take action on ranking our strategic priorities for the next school year. And then you all can let me know, or Mr. Miller, if you have any additional information you need for our future discussion. So I believe what this is going to look like is the school team grabbing information, working with Ms. Gibson, getting it transferred on, you all sending that out to you all, taking a look at that, and then when we come together saying, hey, let's look at making these changes, and these should be our priorities, and then make that decision.
What is that?
November what? Yeah. So we're gonna get our first growth data and see if what we've been doing is effective, and then we'll have conversations with the school team about making the shift where we need to make shifts. All right? So thank you. How are we doing on time? Wow. 2 minutes. Back to you now.
So
Oh,
I
you
didn't know, just briefly, if you already had anything you wanted to share from the cluster meeting update that you haven't already included in your comments.
I don't think so.
Okay. Sounds good. This is a public comment available meeting, but to my knowledge, there were no public comments provided by the public in advance. So we'll move on to that section. Does anyone have any announcements? We've reached the end of our agenda. And before we go to close out this meeting, I do want to remind everyone of our next meeting, which I had pulled up and my computer is now not showing those minutes. Which I missed. Does anyone have in front of them the date of our meeting? So November 17th at 3:15 at the Intermediate Campus Media Center and via Zoom. With that, we've reached the end of our agenda. Is there any additional business at this time? May I have a motion to adjourn the meeting? Thank you, Jennifer. A second?
I second.
Thank you. All in favor, please raise your hand. All opposed, please raise your hands. If you would like to abstain, please raise your hand. Meeting is adjourned as of 4:15 p.m. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Great meeting, guys.
Thank you, Mrs. Nina. Don't say anything, we're still.